It all depends on camera guy.
You guys go ahead. As long as don't block my route.
All right.
I can see over most people.
We should have walked around.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool. All right, my name is Zimmer. I'm here to talk today about the real-life superhero community and how it affects hackers, how it affects the world, just pretty much how it affects everything we do, and how similar real-life superheroes are to real-life hackers. With me is TSAF. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is TSAF. It's an acronym. I guess it's not important right now. But I'm a member of the New York Initiative. Zimmer is as well. Participate in Bait Patrols, Community Watch. I'm a community activist, and I'm into free running, also known as parkour, martial arts, and this is just one of the other ways that I can apply that to community activism.
So a lot of we wanted to talk about, just to define what a real-life superhero is, and also to explore the history of this. This goes back to 1969. A lot of this information we didn't know until recently, so that's really exciting to us. We went back and did the research, and there are journalism pieces of people going out and fighting crime as far back as 1970, which is really exciting to us. So I'll talk a little about that. TSAF is going to give an overview of how to start if you're interested in it, and we'll talk about some concept missions. So the media has called the real-life superhero a lot of things and gave us the name real-life superheroes. This is the front page issue. This is this week's issue of the New York Press. It's on real-life superheroes and specifically the New York Initiative, which is the team that TSAF and I founded with 2 others. Essentially, we've been called a lot of stuff. We've been said that we're basically live-action role players. People have said that we're dangerous vigilantes, or that we're some kind of militia, or that we're crazy. So there's been a lot of stuff from the newspapers, and with a community as large as the real-life superhero community, unfortunately, all of it's true, even the bad. But ultimately, at its core, there are a lot of really excellent qualities from the real-life superhero community, and they interact with hackers in a lot of ways. So essentially, a real-life superhero is someone that emulates a comic book superhero in that they may have anonymity or wear a mask, and they go out either to fight crime or injustice, and others use the persona of a superhero to engage in charity. With the mainstream media as it is, if you are a really good person and you go out and do some amazing charitable work or activism, you're not going to get picked up just being yourself. However, if you put on a mask and cape, you'll make front page on CNN. So in this kind of a world, it pays to think outside the box and to do something that gets the attention of people that are really just looking for something for shock value. So the first person to do this was a man by the name of the Fox, was his handle. His real name was James Phillips. And in 1969, he was a middle school science teacher. And he talked to his class about all kinds of environmental degradation and things that were wrong with society. And one of his students said, well, what are you doing about it? You still drive a car, you're still doing all this stuff. How are you lecturing about all of these evils of society when you're part of the problem? And so, according to legend, this really hit him close to heart, and he really started to think about that. There was a company that was pumping toxic chemicals into the city's water supply, and nothing was being done about it. The company said that the chemicals that they were producing caused no harm to the environment or to the drinking supply. So what he did was he went and plugged up what was draining into the river, and of course, being a corporation, they immediately took the stop out. And he kept doing this again and again, it didn't get anywhere. And so what he did was collect a lot of that stuff that they were pumping out, all of these chemicals, got it in a giant bucket, went to the corporate headquarters, and splashed it everywhere, just splashed it in all the offices they could. And then the company really couldn't say that it was harmless because they had to shut down their offices and get it all expunged. And so in this way, he was able to enact social change, acting as an anonymous agent. This was back in 1970, and there's a really excellent Time interview with him if you want to look it up. A little bit after that, in 1973, there was a group called the Lavender Panthers. At this time, there was a lot of gay bashing, and there was a reverend who was openly gay, which was very rare for 1973. It's still rare today. And he ran a gay community center that was vandalized. When he called the police didn't do anything except to tell the vandals that he had snitched on him, and the guy got beat up really badly. And so after that, he was really pissed for a lot of obvious reasons, and he wanted to take a page both from the Fox and the Black Panthers. He said the Black Panthers are involved in protecting their community, maybe we should do the same. And so he founded the Lavender Panthers, which was a group that really started bringing this idea that citizens can patrol as a group, patrol their neighborhoods, not as police, but just as citizens, and stop crimes when they see them. And Time also did an article in 1973 on them, which is really excellent. So after this, a man named Curtis Sliwa founded the Guardian Angels. Essentially the same thing as the Lavender Panthers, but without a political point or protecting any particular sexual orientation, just to protect everyone in New York. At this time, the New York Transit Police were on strike because they weren't getting paid as much as cops that were patrolling on the street level. And so they went on strike, and all the subways weren't being protected. And that's when the Guardian Angels started, and they started patrolling the subway systems and stopping crimes where they saw them. So none of this was really connected. All these were different events, different flashpoints. And it wasn't until 1980 when a man named Knight Rider, we don't know his real name, wrote a book called How to Be a Superhero. This was in 1980. And he said all of these people and others are real-life superheroes. They're taking this idea of the comic book and they're using anonymity to shape real-world events and enact actual social change. It's a really great book. There's only one copy in existence, so if you find one, you've landed a gold mine. So essentially, there wasn't a lot of communication between these people because they were so rare. They didn't really talk to each other. They just did their own individual missions all around the country and all around the world. And it wasn't until the internet came along that it really changed things. The internet changed the real-life superhero movement the same way it changed the hacker movement. And two things happened, I think both with hackers and with real-life superheroes. Number one, the good that came with this was there was much more communication, there was information sharing, there was teamwork. People could collaborate on projects that were too big for any one single person to work on. And if anyone came up with a solution, they could share it with everyone else, which means that there's a huge group trying to solve all these problems, and not just each person having to make the same mistakes over and over again. With information sharing, you can let someone skip all the mistakes you made and go right to the successful part. So this happened both with hackers and with real-life superheroes in the late 90s, early 2000s. But there's also the flip side of this. The bad thing was, both with hackers and with real-life superheroes, there's people that will pretend to know something when they really don't. And so with the real-life superhero community, this was kind of people that would role-play and say that they went out and did all these things when they really didn't. And it was very dangerous for these people to give advice to others and say, oh yeah, I fought crime, I did this, this, and this. And to stop a drug dealer, you really just have to get in their face and push them around. Unfortunately, this did happen. There was a guy that said this to a teenager and said, oh, to confront drug dealers, you have to get in their face. And so the teenager did this and got a gun in his face. Guy lived, he got out of the situation. But obviously, after a certain point, you do have to always follow the rule. No one on the internet is who they say they are. So in light of this, in light of the fact that there was all this new communication, all these superheroes knew about each other, there's now 350 people in the United States and around the world that say that they're superheroes and they want to fight crime. And so it's like, okay, how do you separate the people that are faking and the people that are real? You meet up in real life. And so this was started by a group called Superheroes Anonymous. I'm actually wearing the shirt of it. This was founded by a film student at Columbia named Chaim Lazaros with his friend Ben Goldman. And their idea was to get superheroes to meet in real life. And this worked out really great. they didn't really want to focus on crime fighting. They're more focused on charity and activism, and they're now a nonprofit, so they have to stay away from the controversial stuff. So after this, after people started meeting up, that's when the New York Initiative was founded. There's 4 members right now. We moved from all over the country and decided to found something and decided to do something that would be positive and take these great ideas that this community had, that the real life superhero community had, and take them to the next level. And I'm going to hand it over to Saf to talk a little bit more about the New York Initiative and what we're all about.
Hi, I'm Saf.
Speak up.
Hi, I'm Saf. Yes, the New York Initiative was founded by 4 people that came together. We had a common belief, and we wanted to do something to change what we saw as a problem, mainly apathy. And this isn't just something that ends with the New York Initiative. This is just the beginning, and we actually want to encourage people to maybe start groups in their own community. On how do you get started? Well, I would suggest that everybody get training of some sort. This is not, it is not encouraged for anyone to go out there and put themselves in peril unless they have been in an actual fight and they feel like they can handle themselves in a fight, or if they have some sort of martial arts training and they feel that they're proficient in this. If you're not, I would suggest that you go out with people that are, and if you can still get some sort of at least basic self-defense training. It's very simple to get started. You can just be aware, walk around your neighborhood, take a look at what's going on. I really would suggest that if you want to be a community activist, to really get involved in the community, to know what the needs of your community are, to start speaking to the people that live there and forming relationships and understanding what it is that they need. Word on the street is very powerful. You can do reconnaissance missions and observe and see if you think a place is high crime. However, nothing is more valuable than really speaking to people and understanding what is happening in your community. As far as gear, think sports. It's very simple to begin with some basic padding. Knee pads. There's something called butcher's nail. I'm going to pass this around. It's just a small sample. This can be formed into a vest. It is stab proof, and I don't want to be morose, but the reality is if you're going to get yourself in this situation, there's a strong possibility that you can run up against someone who has a knife, and I mean, hopefully not someone who has a gun. We have a member that has a bulletproof vest, but also what you need is your wits about you, and you don't want to antagonize or escalate a situation. The best possible advice I could give to anyone is to learn conflict resolution, aside from knowing how to defend yourself. It's not always the best policy to go into a situation and try to beat your way through it. I think that violence would be the last resort when you're getting involved in this. There is a lot to say for conflict resolution and de-escalating the situation. Thank you.
I think it's also important to mention, thank you. The New York Initiative patrols with 4 people. All of us have very extensive martial arts training. All of us stay very fit. I'm a New York State EMT, and I broke my arm recently, not in the field, so I haven't been able to go out. Ironically, I can't deal with trauma emergencies because I've had a trauma emergency. But before then, we did everything to be as safe as possible, to wear as much protective clothing. All of us had martial arts training, and others of us have had more extensive training, either in different styles of self-defense or parkour, and even urban exploration and hardware hacking. So it's definitely good to have broad knowledge base, and it's good to always stay as safe as possible. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about were different types of missions. I call these different concept missions. These are things that have been done in the past. Instead of just going out and expecting something to happen that you could involve yourself with and make a positive change, it's better to have some kind of goal to go out on. There's a guy named Superhero, that's his name, Superhero. He's in Florida, and he has an analogy that he calls the Nazi Frogman. And his idea is that a lot of people, when they first get into this, somehow think that if you walk around in the middle of the night with a mask, that it's somehow going to be more exciting than walking around without a mask. And in reality, regardless of what you're wearing, you're still just as likely to run into crime, which is fairly low,
And just
even
to
if
make
you're in a high crime area.
Just to make the point, I'm wearing this for anonymity. Zimmer has never hid his identity. I don't go out patrolling in a mask. In fact, I wouldn't recommend it in New York. People don't go for that shit here. Pardon my French. But it's really only going to get you in more trouble. We go in plain clothes. Everything that I wear, I try to cover under a large jacket. I really just wouldn't suggest that you go out looking like this.
Yeah, this is not us. This is the New York Press's model or something. But yeah, I'm the only public member of the New York Initiative. The other three are anonymous and have code names. And it's like that for a reason. One of our members has a lot of contacts, and he wouldn't be getting the information that he gets about criminals, essentially, if they knew what he was involved in. And so anonymity is very important. So some of the concept missions I wanted to talk about. So you don't just go out without a plan. You're not going to run anything. It's going to be very boring for you, and you're really not going to enact any kind of social change or help anyone. So one thing that people started doing is homeless outreach. It's an issue in a large part of the world, and even in the United States. Even though we tell ourselves that we're the richest nation in the world, we still have a very large problem with poverty and homelessness. And so one of the best people to do homeless outreach is a man named Thanatos in Vancouver. And essentially, he makes up a lot of sandwiches. He'll get medical supplies. He'll get bottles of water, blankets, anything that a homeless person would need, just a care package. And he hands out as much supplies as possible. And he also gets information from the homeless people. He's able to have all of those eyes and ears on the street, and he's able to help all of them, and in many cases keep them alive. So I definitely respect Thanatos a lot, and I respect everyone that does the homeless outreach that they do in the community. A spin on this that I did is what I call tribal outreach. I'm an urban explorer. I really like exploring tunnels and under bridges and all kinds of abandoned sites. And in doing this, I found homeless people. The first time it was under this bridge, and there was this fireplace, and these 4 guys were around, and they were cooking, and they had mattresses off to the side, and it looked like it was 10,000 years ago, and they were living in a cave. It was very eerie. And so the next night, I didn't have anything on me. And next night, I brought supplies for them, and I started exploring other bridges. This was in Austin, Texas, and a lot of the homeless people are very dissatisfied with homeless outreach in Austin. It's very minimal, and the homeless outreach feels like they don't really have to try because the rest of Texas is extremely anti-homeless. And so virtually, if you're in Texas, you pretty much get stuck to Austin if you don't have anywhere to stay. And so since they feel like they don't really have to compete, it's pretty lax, and a lot of people that are homeless aren't satisfied with what they're getting. And so they live in these different tribes throughout the city to just avoid the community center while they'll get stabbed or freeze to death. And so I would go out to these tribes that no one is going out to, no one is interacting with, there's no large organization out to help them or even look for them or even be aware that they're existing, and hand out things like food and water, medical supplies, and blankets, which can be really important in Austin. The weather can drop, and since it's 106 degrees every other day of the year, no one has blankets, so it'll freeze and people will die. So that's something that is important to me, and I'm trying to do that more here now in New York and Brooklyn. Another thing that I was interested in is parkour. I don't think I'll be getting up to that in the next few months. But I would go to a place, and this is something Saf and I have done, where I'll either be on a rooftop or somewhere practicing parkour, getting better at it, but at the same time keeping an eye on the street. And this could be any activity, as long as you have some activity to do. so you can watch the streets, but also not just be this guy standing around being conspicuous. And it's also a lot less boring if you're doing stuff. Any private investigator or police officer will tell you that recon is really, really boring. Speaking of recon, recon is really the bread and butter of a lot of it, of a lot of what real life superheroes do. They patrol high crime areas. Unfortunately, not enough of them take it to the next step and take it to one of these other kind of spin-off concept missions. So I would definitely encourage that in a lot of you. There are a few more concept missions, but I think before that, SAF wanted to talk about a concept that the two of us came up with a guy named Z, another member of our team, called HelpCon. You want to talk about HelpCon?
Good. I think you could feel that a little bit.
The idea of HelpCon is there's all these different comic book conventions and hacker conventions, and an idea of ours was, what if there was a convention just for people that wanted to help people? These could be just plain old civilians, they could be soldiers, they could be EMTs, they could be doctors, they could be firefighters, they could be police officers, they could be social workers. Anyone that wanted help would get together and do that. So that's something that we're hoping to organize in the future.
Also, on another level, there are organizations that are set up to help people. A lot of times there are they're missing. Oh gosh, sorry. A lot of times they need help with funding. However, I wonder if they came to a HelpCon, maybe they could organize their efforts together. Maybe they could come up with new strategies, and not just for funding, but also if their purpose is in line, if they're in line with each other, then perhaps it's a good idea to try to get organizations together.
It's definitely something I noticed in Austin, and especially in Brooklyn. There's just so much bureaucracy with things. It seems like any large organization is very difficult to get things done, especially if they're the government. But even if they're a corporation, even if they're a nonprofit, it just seems unwieldy. And one of the things that was brought to light recently was something called the NYPD tapes article.
It's the May 5th issue of the Village Voice. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, if anybody wants to look that up. There was a police officer who has been taping roll calls and other officers for about a year, and what has been discovered is that, specifically the 81st Precinct, but I guess we would have reason to believe that other police departments are doing this as well in the New York area. They were underreporting crimes such as robberies and more violent crimes, and they were also padding the numbers with more stop and frisks. This is just to make the statistics look like New York City is a safer city. In fact, it's not. I mean, I know Giuliani did a lot for this city, but currently there is still a lot of crime that is underreported, and people are being discouraged actually from filing robbery reports. And this was brought to light, once again, it's the May 5th issue of the Village Voice, the NYPD tapes, specifically regarding the 81st Precinct.
And
so this ties into wanting to be, an activist. I'm really reluctant to using the word real life superhero, but just somebody that wants to help in their community. You go to your police department, to the community affairs office, and you may not get the reception that you want. So that's just something to consider.
So essentially, in this environment where the police aren't trying to help, they're padding the numbers to make it look like there's a lot of really petty offenses and they're underreporting heavy offenses. In this way, it's very politically safe for both the police chief and for a mayor, or for anyone in government to say, look, statistically, New York City is the safest of any big city in the United States, where in fact, those are based on reports where we know now that at least one precinct, and probably most of them, were fudging the numbers and lying about it. So for all we know, New York City could have the highest crime rate in the United States because we just don't have accurate reports. So this isn't an issue that's just New York City. corruption can happen to any organization in the world, and that's why, while the real life superhero movement started in the United States, it spread to other countries. So, and it spread, I think, throughout the United States. Pretty much, if you're from the United States, there's most likely someone active in your state, and if you live in another country, there might be someone active in your country. It's really spread a lot. I wanted to get back to some of the concept missions. There's a few more that I think would be well received. The next one especially. The Next Hope is really great because they had the art exhibit, and it's very pro-art, and I think that's important because artists can change societies in ways that no other profession really is capable of doing. And I think it's great that there's that much support and respect for the artist community. And one kind of art that I really, really like is graffiti art. I think it's really amazing what a lot of these people can do. And while I respect that, I do not respect people that use tagging and use graffiti to mark territory either for their gang or to sell drugs. And so one thing that I started doing in Kansas City was removing it. It's illegal to spray paint over it technically, which is what I started doing, but quickly stopped because it's illegal, because you can get spray-on remover for it. And so using that, you can spray it on within 5 minutes. You can scrub it off with like steel wool or something like that, and you no longer have blood or crypt tag somewhere. And what we did in Kansas City, we went through probably like 10 of those spray cans. There was quite a few of us, and we took down an entire neighborhood. In the matter of an hour, we took down well over 100 tags for different criminal organizations. So I would definitely recommend that, but of course with that you have to respect artists and you have to respect genuine graffiti art, and you should not, I don't think anyone should take down genuine graffiti art unless it's the building they own and it's disrupting their business or something. I just really like graffiti art. So another one which is really popular is on different holidays, crimes go up. St. Patrick's Day, lots of crime. Halloween, lots of crime. Mardi Gras, that Tuesday, lots of crime. And so on these nights, it's generally organized in the community to go out in your city, especially if you live in a big city, just to keep an eye out. You'd be surprised at how often people don't call the police when there's someone that has been injured, or if there's a fight, or if someone has a weapon. And so on big holidays, even on weekends, just going out to a bar area is something that I started doing, just to call the police if the police need to be called, be that asshole who doesn't know what he's doing to get in an argument if it looks like someone's going to get hit. Those can be a lot of fun, but definitely something you don't want to do if you don't have a background in martial arts. Another person I want to talk about is a woman named Scavenger. She lives in Connecticut. She's a social worker, and what she had done was she was going out and picking up trash. She'd pick up all the recyclable trash in an entire park, entire street, pick up as much trash as she possibly could, keep it all in a bag, take it to a recycling plant, get money for it, and then use that money to buy homeless care packages and give them out to people on the streets. And she tried to get people involved in this, and she tried to tell people about it, and people just wouldn't get engaged. She had a friend named Runebringer, and he says, "Hey, I have to tell you something. I'm a real life superhero, I'm an activist, and I wear a mask and a cape to promote the ideals that I think are important, and people pay attention to me because I'm wearing a mask and a cape." And so she was like, "That sounds really cool." So in true keeping with her ideals of using trash for useful things, she assembled her uniform out of trash, which you would never expect looking at it. It looks great. And she went out in this, like, it's hard to describe her uniform. She's got this corset, and she's in really good shape, and she looks bondage-esque. And she goes out and she's picking up trash in this like weird, like, what are you wearing outfit. And so, of course, more people are like, what the hell are you doing? And she says, I'm picking up trash and recycling it and using that money to help pay for care packages for the homeless. And people would say, well, why are you wearing this? I was like, well, so people would notice it. And so she's getting a lot more people involved just because she changed clothes. So I think it's really important, even though if it seems silly to you, just changing an outfit or changing a perspective or your approach to something really basic can make a really huge fundamental change in that. Another person I want to talk about is Mr. Extreme. He's out in California. What Mr. Extreme is concerned about is different missing persons and how we see missing person posters and it's either like a blurry picture or the picture's like faded or rained on and it looks like it's been there a while and it's like, well, did they find the person or did they not? One of these, it had been up for 3 weeks, so I called the detective to ask if they had found her and he didn't know what I was talking about. So I just felt, I definitely feel for him and understand why he would feel helpless with this. And so what he does is he takes those pictures for homeless posters and he makes up a whole new missing poster that is more engaging and eye-catching and something that you absolutely can't look away from. And he'll make up hundreds of these and just blanket an entire neighborhood. And in this way, instead of having this boring missing person poster that no one pays attention to, he creates something that's engaging with the community and creates something, and it creates a situation where it's more likely for that missing person to be found. So I have a lot of respect for the work that he does. Another person is Wolf. He's another Canadian, and he's a private detective. And he doesn't wear a mask or a cape or does any. I think he does crime patrols. But his main mission is to offer detective services to people for free. And so someone will have a major crime happen to them, and if they feel like the police aren't getting involved in as much as they should be, they can go to him, and he will do the detective work for free, and hopefully get some justice for them. So that's another concept mission that's been out in the community. The last one I think will probably be most appropriate for a hacker conference, which is the purely technical missions. There's people in the community that don't ever go out and patrol. Their sole purpose is what's called support. And support can come in a variety of ways. There's a man named Sir Steampunk, and I don't have my uniform with me, but he made these chants for me. This is something that the U.S. military wanted to do. Instead of having a knee pad that straps over the pant that can move or fall, they wanted knee pads that were sewn in. And finding out about this, I asked him if it was possible to put military knee pads in pants, and he said, well, of course, it's really easy. And so he made these, which are really great, both for an EMT. You have to be on your knees a lot to do CPR, so that's really great for this. And it's also great for parkour, because I have short, stumpy arms, and I bang my knees on things a lot. And it's also good for breaking up fights. One time I got in a fight and I shoved the two people apart, and a guy tackled me from behind, and I went down on my knee, and I bruised my knee a lot. And I know I would have really, really messed up my knee had I not been wearing the knee pads. So even though Sir Steampunk hadn't been on patrol with me, he did something that was very helpful to the patrol. Other more technical missions, there's a guy named Victim, and Victim is a lot better of a hardware hacker and electronics expert than I am, and we're working on a lot of really cool tech ideas. One idea that I put together is something called a mini-star. A mini-star is an LED that's 500 lumens bright. That's about 10 mag lights, about 5 times brighter than a military flashlight. It's blinding. It's literally blinding. If I had one and I pointed at you, you would have to close your eyes. You would not be able to open your eyes. And so, with New York laws such as they are, where you cannot carry pepper spray without a license to carry pepper spray, you can't carry weapons at all. And so I figured this would be a great non-lethal weapon that in no way could ever hurt anyone, but would be very effective in a violent confrontation. And so I strapped this to a backpack where I can press the button and blind someone without taking out something that's going to look like it's going to be a gun or a weapon. I can just touch my chest and have that protection. And that's in this article as well. This is out on the stands in the New York Press. That's the newspaper that's out. So another thing that Victim did was he looked into polycarbonates. And what we found is that these polycarbonates are pretty much stab-proof. We threw everything we could at that piece of polycarbonate. The only thing that made it through was a soldering iron. But before that, we tried just about any kind of blunt object or sharp object to get through it, and it really stood up well.
Is it malleable at 400?
That can also be heated up. You have to do it very carefully. But that can be heated up and molded into pretty much any shape. So we're looking into making maybe arm guards, maybe helmets, something.
Plates for a vest.
That won't take a bullet. I'm really envious of him. He got together with a guy named Irishman. He lives out in the United States where you can have lots and lots of guns legally, and they basically took that stuff to the firing range and just had fun with it and shot it to hell. So unfortunately, it's not bulletproof, and we know it's not bulletproof, but it is absolutely 100% stab proof, even at a thickness that's really thin and very light. So something like that. Victim is not someone that is going to go out in the field to stop crime, but he can use his skills with technology and engineering to help people that are going to go out in the field. The last kind of people that help with technology are what's called an operator or an oracle. And what they do is they sit at a computer while someone is out in the field, and that person can have either a Bluetooth or an earpiece and can be in contact with someone that has access to the internet, so they don't have to pull out their phone or something to look something up. These people can be very good for finding the nearest hospital, calling the police, looking up a license plate. If you see a suspicious car or something, you can look up a license plate. There's so many things. We take the internet for granted, but it's amazing what you can do if you're in front of a computer, but you can't do if you're out, just somewhere. And so it's really great. I've used oracles in the past, just in the field, to be able to say, hey, I need this, and just have it pretty instantly. So that's a really great way that technology has enhanced the real life superhero community. I'm going to hand it back over to SAF if you have anything else to add.
Ready for Q&A?
Yeah, we do.
I think I'd like to try to inspire people. So I don't know. I wrote this out just before our talk, and I really want to get the idea across that as we navigate this exciting period of history, where our technological capabilities can conform to some of our wildest whims and our darkest impulses, we have a unique opportunity and responsibility as free-thinking citizens concerned about our world to not only take a stand, but to take the necessary steps towards the world we wish to live in. And in a reality where the world we live in is ruled by powers we can't hope to affect directly or demolish directly, the responsibility is left in our hands, individually and collectively, to make positive, effective choices, to become aware of what's happening in our community and our world, to educate those that do not know, to organize, collaborate, invent, and spread the actions until the tools that have been used to control the masses and keep power, namely ignorance of the truth concerning atrocities incurred by governments, cultural engineering, that's something that I call whatever the mass media would create as a deficit within our psyche for us to want to consume more, and helped along by our apathy and inaction until these tools are rendered useless. The only way that you can do that is just do something. Thank you. Open it up. Q&A. Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Two questions. One is parkour. Like, how do you get started? Where do you get trained?
There's some great sites.
I was fortunate that I had a background in kickboxing and gymnastics, so I was in pretty good shape to tackle jumping fences and whatnot. But even for that, there's some really great resources on YouTube and other sites that have video sharing that show really basic moves that people can do, and really simple things that really
It's like
count,
basic
like
conditioning.
good
Just
stretching.
do it over. They really are good about in keeping injury free. So I would suggest a lot of the YouTube videos where you have introductory movements.
Yeah, you definitely don't need a gym to stay fit or to be fit enough to do parkour. I very, very rarely go to the gym, but I'm able to climb buildings and, well, I can't anymore, but jump fences and stuff, which is a whole lot of fun. What I would suggest is going on YouTube, looking at a lot of the introductory parkour videos, finding something that looks like you could maybe do it, watch it a lot of times before you have it totally ingrained in your head, and then go outside, make sure you stretch, and give it a shot. You'll probably hurt yourself, because I know I hurt myself at first, but you're going to do that with any new hobby.
Actually, to answer yours, I don't know how useful it is, but there's a website called American Parkour.
Okay.
And that's what it is.
Cool.
My second question was, police. Do you feel like you have a good relationship with them, or?
We're trying to form really good relationships with the police. We attempted to go to the community fairs office. I don't know if there's a person even working there because every time we've gone, we haven't been able to get a hold of them. We call, we can't get a hold of them. The general consensus, at least where we live, is that no one's going to tell us anything as far as in the community because there's a no snitch rule. This is the attitude of the police. Community watches. I don't think they really are supportive of that. We're trying to find contacts that we feel will help us.
Commissioner Gordon.
In one of my patrols, I came across this ambulance with the sirens going. Not the sirens, but the lights. And I asked them, what's wrong? I'm an EMT. Is there anything I can do? What's going on? And they said, yeah, there was a cop that was shot a few blocks from here. The gunman's still there, so we're not gonna go. So don't go. Don't go over there. I was like, where is it? Where do I not need to go? Over there. I was like, okay. So I ran around the corner and went there. And the guy had already left. He'd driven away, and apparently the cop was shot at but not hit. And I talked to one of the police officers there. I said, hey, I'm hearing different stories, just trying to figure out what's going on. I'm an EMT, and I'm part of a community watch. And he says, oh, you're part of a community watch here? And I said, yeah. He says, good luck, and walks away. So cops are people, you can never say you're part of this organization, therefore you're exactly like everyone else that's part of that organization. Every police officer is a person that has their own unique values and beliefs, even though they're all wearing the same uniform. So response is going to vary. I've had very positive response, I've had negative responses. It's just how it goes.
Do you find that adopting the term superhero invites kind of a bad press, just like right off the bat? Because there's nothing supernatural going on. 90% of what you described is basic, calling the police, helping the homeless, yada yada. It seems like you're inviting like a hackers on steroids, like bad PR smear from immediately off the bat.
Unfortunately,
super.
everyone, the most unanimous thing in the community is that everyone hates the word real life superhero, and no one can really come up with a better term to describe it. We've played around with costumed activist, we've tried a lot of different terms. Real life superheroes is the one that was come up with in 1980. It's the one that's stuck. I didn't come up with it. I wasn't even alive in 1980, so don't blame me. If you have a suggestion that might catch on, I get it out there. I would love to have a different title because it is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
but
I thought this was going to be a lot more laughable walking in. It was
Yeah.
oh, real life superheroes is going to be
Yeah.
good.
Some of it is, but hopefully we're not it.
All right. Well, definitely take any more questions if any of you have them. I created this. Going to do an email list. Invite different hackers and superheroes to try to collaborate on stuff. So if you want to stay in touch or want more information, come up on the email. These are over here. You can sign up on the email list. And another great resource, there's reallifesuperheroes.com, reallifesuperheroes.org, heroesnetwork.net, and the best is a guy named T. Krillis. He's the guy that wrote this article. I consider him one of the last few great journalists in America, frankly. But he runs a blog on real life superheroes that's very frank. If he sees bullshit, he calls it, and if he sees someone that deserves praise, I think he does a good job of that as well. His blog is on Blogspot, and it's called Heroes in the Night. I would recommend that as a source of news. Are there any more questions? All right, then. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.